Firstly, Rico, why do you want to appear on camera, on film today?
Well, primarily, I just want to say as well that by appearing on camera, people know I blog under my name, and also I just want to show that I'm not afraid to go in front of a camera, explain what work I'm doing, and basically just show no fear, because obviously I'm still getting threats and all the rest of it, but I can't allow that to stop what I'm doing.
You're still receiving threats and intimidation?
Oh yeah, on a daily basis. But yeah, it's not. It's of no relevance to me now. I'm involved in my work, and I won't stop.
Exactly. When you say you're involved in your work, what work are you talking about here?
Well, basically, my main concerns was the BDO review and the Scrutiny Home Affairs sub-panel's findings into the review, and I just want to focus this interview on the relationship between Mick Gradwell, Deputy Superintendent Mick Gradwell, former Senior Investigating Officer of the Historical Child Abuse Investigation, and David Rose, the journalist who wrote 3 pieces in the Daily Mail. Now, over my research and that, I've got uncomfortable on the relationship that seems to have formed between Mick Gradwell and David Rose, because David Rose first wrote an article on, I think it was on May the 18th, 2008. Basically, he was trashing the Jersey Historical Child Abuse Investigation. There's many issues contained in his piece. One bit with the alleged leaking of an email from a former health minister of Jersey. But I don't really want to get into that today. I just want to talk about how the David Rose, Mick Gradwell seem to be running in parallel with each other. Because Mick Gradwell came to Jersey in September 2008. He was seconded from the UK, so it was on a year secondment, so he was here from September 2008 to September 2009. David Rose had written an article on May the 18th, basically trashing the abuse investigation. He had set out his agenda, and that was it. Then, right, fair play, that's what he's doing. Now, what really concerns me is, what is a senior investigating officer looking into child abuse doing, working with this journalist? Not only working with this journalist, but leaking this journalist information. Now, one of the main, so we say, allegations that keeps cropping up is that the abuse survivors never trusted the authorities or the States of Jersey police. Now here we have a senior investigating officer of a child abuse investigation leaking information to the one journalist who's trashing the investigation. Now, what message does that send out? What message would that send out to any abuse survivor? That the police, the senior investigating officer who's representing them to look into these allegations is actually leaking information to the guy who's trashing it.
Allegedly.
He was leaking information. It's come out in the scrutiny report, but it was Mick Gradwell, the former police consultant who worked on the BDO review, Mike Kellett. He spoke to Mick Gradwell, and under oath, Mike Kellett said under oath, but he spoke to Mick Gradwell, and Mick Gradwell admitted that it was him who leaked it.
And of course,
that's serious stuff.
We got to, and of course, the Home Affairs Minister, Senator Ian Lamont, basically said the same. Well,
the Home Affairs Minister said it in the States a long time ago that it was Mick Gradwell. When Deputy Pittman raised the issue, and Ian Lamont of Home Affairs said, yeah, it was all roads lead to Deputy Superintendent Mick Gradwell. Again, something that I found amazing then was none of the local media picked up on this, or when I say picked up, they did pick it up, but they just refused to run with it. You know, it's a very, very serious allegation.
Because you picked up on there, this is quite outstanding, that if Lenny Harper goes for a meal in a London restaurant, it makes front page news. But Mick Gradwell is accused of leaking information to a journalist with a reported history of supporting convicted paedophiles, and that doesn't make the news.
You know, to use the word, it really is quite staggering. But one of the issues that I want to try and get into is David Rose was already in place before Mick Gradwell arrived in Jersey.
While he had already written an article.
That's right. And he had been leaked information from a former health minister, allegedly. So that means David Rose is already in place. Mick Gradwell comes in September 2008. And then on November the 15th, 3 days after the suspension of the former Chief Officer Graham Power, Mick Gradwell is talking to David Rose. The link's on my blog, you can read it. And David Rose is talking about leaked information there also. Now, surely Mick Gradwell will know what David Rose's angle is. Why is he speaking to David Rose? I find this just incredible. And it's a very, it's such a serious issue because, like I've already just stated, the abuse survivors always thought that the States of Jersey police were covering it up. And here we have a senior investigating officer leaking information to a guy who's trashing the abuse investigation. But it doesn't stop there because there's a pattern here. Because Channel TV do like a 3-part news series on the historical child abuse investigation where they're trashing it.
With the interview they done with Mick Gradwell.
And they're interviewing Mick Gradwell. There's a pattern. I mean, I don't think you need to be Einstein to work this out. I think you just need to look at it. I think if a Joe Bloggs like me from the street can get this information, look at it and go, oh, there's a problem here. Why is any of our media outlets doing it? Well, I'll actually tell you why none of our media outlets are doing it. It's because they're in on it. I honestly fear, and I'm not talking about the foot soldiers of the Jersey mainstream media. I'm talking editorial. These decisions are made in the editorial rooms. Maybe it's only between 2 or 3 people in, say, if you've got the Jersey Evening Post, BBC Jersey, Channel TV. The decisions are made by very few people that they can put the whole angle of the news in a direction. This is, there's no point me sitting here blaming the journalists on, your normal foot journalist. It's not. This is done. These decisions are made in editorial rooms. There's been a decision made that trash the abuse investigation, and that is it. Unless someone else sees it differently, or someone else can come up with a better argument, I'm ready to listen. But
of course, you've got no proof that this is the case. It's just
I think I think there is proof because you just like I do. I research. I go through all the archives, Channel TV, Jersey Evening Post. Okay, BBC don't keep their stuff up online as much in like say the iPlayer stuff and that. So it's a little bit harder. But thanks to the Jersey Way, we have an outlet there.
The blogger, the Jersey
Way. Yeah,
the
Jersey Way blogger. Now, if you look into the archives of the Jersey Evening Post, it's all there. They are trashing the abuse investigation, but it's done on the same. It's all done on the same lines of like the David Rose, Mick Gradwell, and the Jersey. It's the same formula is used. Now, I feel quite happy saying this on camera because I've looked at it, and like I say, unless someone can come up with a bloody good different reason to it, that's the way I see it. And when you look at the BDO, the scrutiny sub-panel's findings, and the media doesn't come out well in it. I mean, I think to anybody who's read it, there's some serious questions that have got to be asked about the closeness. It's the closeness of the power of government and the power, like I say, in the editorial rooms,
the influence.
The influence there. It's there. It's got to be looked at. I mean, just to go off, I just want to go off subject a little bit, but you could see it during the election. Philip Balash, May 2008 Liberation Day speech, basically saying that the image of the island was more important than the abuse survivors. The JEP ran with that. Who ran for Sir Philip Balash's campaign?
No.
The JEP.
He was getting front page.
Front page. It's so close. The relationships are so close. It's so obvious, and I don't even think they try and hide it. I don't think they try and hide it because why try and hide something when you know no one's going to do anything about it? Maybe one of the problems that has happened, I'd say probably the last 3 years, is someone did start looking at it. And when I say some, I mean I refer to bloggers. The bloggers have stepped away and have started looking, and not just looking, but researching. you know, asking questions. And again, how important, don't be afraid to ask questions.
I suppose, well, that's it, because we have asked the question, which we believe that none of the state media have asked, is how was it possible for our children to be abused in state-run institutions for decades? That's the question, not how much Lenny Harper spent on a prawn cocktail.
And again, this is where I come back to that relationship. No one went to the police, no one went to the media. And that's why I say, again, about the Mick Gradwell situation, how serious that is. Because, like I say, if you're thinking, States of Jersey police, you know, they're not going to do, you know, they're not going to do anything, and you know, it's just allegations. But then again, you look at the Mick Gradwell situation, and you go, you know what, you've got a point here. You know, you've got to ask the questions. People seem afraid to ask questions on this island. I mean, I can understand why, because I look at the threats I get, and I think, yeah, you know, I can understand it. But like I say, I mean, I would never be able to live with myself if I didn't carry on doing this, because it's got to stop. I don't think children in Jersey are any safer now, and the reason I say that, because anybody would have looked at what the media coverage has been the last 3 years, especially the Jersey media. Now, if you knew something was going on, would you put yourself forward to say, look, there might be, you know, whether it's this home, that there might be something going, you know, you would like to think someone would have the integrity to do that, but when you look at what's going on, you know, you'd be like, you know what, I'm not putting my head above the parapet. You know, that is an issue that's got to be looked at.
The culture of fear.
It's the culture of fear. Yeah. Okay. Maybe right now, the environment might be a lot safer. But what in 5 years' time? What in 10 years' time? When it's all, you know, when it's all died down a bit, and that's why this committee of inquiry is so important. It's just so important, because the amount of evidence out there is just staggering. It really is, the amount of evidence that's out there. And that's why, personally, and this is my opinion, the reason they're trying to scupper the committee of inquiry, they're using bigger figures, 20 million, 40 million, 50 million, you know, it's 100 million for a committee of inquiry. The reason is they know the evidence. And, you know, my opinion is they just don't want that coming out. I mean, I've said it before, you only have to look at Blanche Pierre of what happened there to know, you know, we got problems.
Okay, so can we sum up your blog?
Yeah,
today?
I went off there, but this is the subject.
It needs to be aired.
This is the subject. You know, once you start talking about it, it is. But today, yeah, I think if people read my blog, they will see the links for the Daily Mail articles. There's a little timeline. They'll be able to see the evidence given by BDO, Alto under oath at scrutiny. Same with police consultant Mike Kellett under oath. And the findings of the Scrutiny Home Affairs sub-panel. And I think if you look at those, I mean, the reason again I've said that is these aren't my findings this is not my opinion on this. This is something that I've discovered, brought forward, it's been investigated in an open, transparent way. And again, this BDO, the Home Affairs Scrutiny report, is the first real open, transparent investigation report, call it what you like, into the Operation Rectangle, where we've had a really good in-depth look. There's many aspects I want to look on, the finances and all that, but I think the most important aspect right now is the abuse survivors and the relationship of David Rose, Mick Gradwell and the Jersey State media. It has got to be looked at now.